Welcome to the Tribe of Testimonies. Here you will find conversations with faithful Native American members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, sharing their stories and their love of the Savior. My name's Andrea Hales. I'm Navajo, and I'm glad that you've decided to come and join us today. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today, my guest is Sosha Cox. She lives way on the other side of the continent from us, and I'm glad that she made the time for this. She reached out to me a couple weeks ago and said she would love to be a guest, and so we worked it out, and here she is. And after we finished our conversation, she just talked to me. It was like she was meant to talk to me because I'd had some problems that day, and she just gave me words of encouragement regarding that specific issue because she has knowledge and experience with that issue. And so not only was I happy to talk to her for this interview, but I was happy to just talk to her. So I'm grateful for her. So here's Sosha. I hope you enjoy this conversation. I am on the phone tonight with Sosha Cox. We are on opposite sides of the continent, basically. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, Sosha, would you please introduce yourself in your tribal way as much as possible? Whether or not that's in your language is fine, because not everybody speaks their language, and some languages are dead.
Yep. Now I scan it quickly. Go. Sasha, Nigaso, Agege. I said our way of hello, which means I'm thankful you are well. My name is Sasha, and I am of the Beaver Clan. Nyawe is thank you for us. So Nyawe scan it, is our welcome. But we also don't have a word for a goodbye. Just see you later. Eskongeai.
That's awesome. So, and which tribe?
Seneca.
Super. Would you share something about your Seneca heritage? It could be anything, a story, a celebration, a way of life, a ceremony, anything that you love about your heritage, especially as it relates to the gospel of Jesus Christ.
The first thing came to mind is, we are a sub-tribe, kind of like how the states are sub of the United States.
Yeah.
So Iroquois, and, we are the creators of lacrosse, which is so important to me in that it's about to be an Olympic sport. Second is that we are a matriarchal society and that we still stand by those matriarchal traditions and ways. Third, by the gospel, is that where are 6 tribes? So me specifically, we are Haudenosaunee, which means keepers of the western door. And so as these 6 tribes came together, we protected each other. We kept the west side, and everyone had their sides. And as you look at a map, it kind of builds this circle, this territory of protection. Palmyra is in the middle. And I love that miraculously on the East Coast, where it was quickly colonized, that the gold plates were never found. And that our tribe never left, that we were in our territory, not a reservation. Does that make sense? That
yeah,
that it has always been our land from the beginning, and that our land is where God, Heavenly Father, came and to earth is where we are from.
That's so cool.
Yeah, if you go to Doctrine and Covenants, and God tells Joseph Smith, go preach to my people, the Lamanites on the Cattaraugus, that's us.
Yes, I totally agree. I love that so much. Have you always been a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
I have.
And how were your parents?
My dad is a convert, and my mom, her dad, yes, he has her parents have a beautiful love story. But yes, she was a member her whole life.
Cool. Um, and you grew up, did you grow up out there in New York area?
Yep, I grew up on the Cattaraugus Reservation out
Is
in Western New York in
is
Buffalo.
a reservation now?
It's called a reservation, but it's a territory.
This is all interesting new information to me. See, I don't know all the stuff. There's so much stuff to know and I don't know half
Oh,
of it.
yeah, I mean, there's 250 federally recognized tribes. Each one has their own cultures, ways, and of life and living, and so specific it'd be impossible to know
Yeah.
every single one.
So tell us about what you did growing up. Were you did you enjoy going to church? Was that easy for you? How many siblings did you have? Tell us about growing up.
I am the oldest of 11 siblings. Um, I did not enjoy going to church. The cool thing is that my church, my ward was our church was on Indian land, which I think is really special and really cool. However, I had an identity crisis because I was too white for my natives and too natives for my whites. It didn't really fit in because everyone wants to put you in a box, especially when you're a Christian. Um, we have Longhouse, which is very ceremonial and definitely considered a religion. Um, and it just felt like, you grow up and we have this saying, you can't have one foot in two canoes. You'll drift apart. You have to pick a side.
Wow.
And then, people are telling you in church, they're like, oh, you can't, you have to be on the straight and narrow. You can't pick and choose what you want to do. You have to choose. And so my whole life, I'm just being told, like, you have to choose, you have to choose. And I'm just like, I don't know what to choose. And I definitely went through this identity crisis where I was like, I just don't, I have to pick one. And it wasn't until as an adult that I don't ever have to pick one, that I can fully be both, that there is room enough in me to be multiple things. But I think because of that, a little bit of that crisis, and not really finding my place, I didn't really want to be actively involved in church. I think I wanted to seek more of who I am in a worldly aspect, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, what brought you to your own testimony? How did you attain that? What events happened and how did you get there?
Um, true. How it got there was literally God saying, "Go on a mission." I had very little testimony. It was there. It was small. It was a mustard seed. It was definitely a mustard seed, and that was about it. And my friends forced me to church one day. I didn't want to go. We were driving back after sacrament, and that was when it was 3 hours. And I was like, I'm not staying for 3 hours. And they are just really pushing church, and they're playing conference talks on the way home. And they put on We Were All Enlisted by Jeffrey All Holland. And I grew up playing sports. And so when he says, I'm going to get in your face a little bit, like a coach does when the game is close, and winning means everything, I knew exactly what he was talking about, and that tone just resonated with me because that's what motivates me, is someone getting in my face a little like a coach does. And he was like, you need to get clean. You need to get morally clean and go on a mission. And like lightning,
It was
I
like
was
he
like,
was talking to you.
it was like he was talking to me. It was like he was talking to me, and it was like God was talking to me. It was like, this is you. And I was like, I'm going on a mission. So I do all the stuff that I need to do, and I go on a mission. I knew so little. I had no idea general conference was 2 days. I thought, oh, I'm not kidding. On my mission, on my mission. I am with, so my companion, we trained each other. And she was like, okay, Saturday we have conference in the morning and afternoon. And I'm like, what do you mean morning? Like, is it like a rerun? Can we just watch it Sunday morning? And she's like, no. She's like, she thought I was joking because I am very sarcastic like that. She's like, oh my gosh, you're so funny. I'm like, yeah, I'm so funny. I'm
Oh
like, oh my
no.
gosh, I literally had no idea it was 4+ sessions
And now it's
on my
5.
mission. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how many Nephi's are in this book? I'm like, there's a third Nephi. I'm like, there's so many. So yeah, and on my mission was the first time I read the Book of Mormon fully through. I mean, I don't believe that you need to read it fully through to have a testimony of it, but it is so wonderful to read it through. So yes, I knew very little, and that's where I gained my testimony, truthfully, was on my mission. It was the most cherished experiences of my life. I hold it so sacred. And if anyone will let me talk about it I could go for hours. That's how much I love my mission.
Yeah. And where did you serve?
I served in San Diego.
That's you were telling me that you had some amazing experiences on your mission. Do you want to share any of them?
I would love to. So at the beginning of my mission, my dad emails me. I'm probably 2 weeks out. Don't know my area, and I was in El Centro, which is 2.5 hours away from San Diego in the summer, 125 degrees. My garments, they were brand new, immediately turned gray. It was so hot there. But anyways, I'm so focused on all these new things. And he goes, hey, your cousin Aaron lives in San Diego. Here's his address. So I write down his address and I see what it says. And I'm like, I don't think that's in my mission. I think it's outside of my mission boundaries. I'll just send it in, to a referral. And I just didn't. I was like, I'll do it later. It kind of broke my heart that he wasn't in my mission. And then I completely forgot about it until my very last area. I was serving in the YSA and we whitewashed in. So we had no leads. And all of a sudden, of course, the spirit brings to my mind, hey, remember almost 18 months ago when your dad sent you this address? I think it's in this area because, we're looking over our area map. And it was. And my wonderful mission companion, I was like, hey, I know it's family. Would you mind if we go? And we'll just see. I don't even know if he's still there. She's from a while ago. She was like, okay, we'll go.
And is Aaron a close family member at this
Oh,
point?
he is my second cousin, but back where I'm from, second cousins are like first cousins,
Sure.
and first cousins are like siblings.
Yes. Gotcha.
Very, very tight knit. And I grew up with him. I knew him my whole life. I hadn't seen him in a while because he was in the Navy. So I go and I knock on his door. And in San Diego, they have the metal screen, so you can't see in, but they can see you.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden I hear, oh, is that Sasha? Which was so amazing to hear my name and not Sister Girl, even though I love hearing it. And he comes out and he hugs me. And I'm absolutely terrified this time because I'm like, what if he rejects me? Because like I said, I have never fit in this box. And he was like, yeah, I just got done praying. I stopped drinking and I was about to slip. I was about to start drinking again. And I just prayed probably 30 minutes ago, asking God for a sign.
No way.
And we shut the door and we taught him. And I got to invite him to be baptized. And he was baptized. I got to watch him be baptized. And unfortunately, he died a year later in a car accident. But the fact that I got to spend so much time with him before he passed and got to be part of that is amazing. And people say they know why they were sent to their area. I know without a doubt the reason I was sent to San Diego was for my cousin Aaron.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Uh, did
And my
you?
mission president was so wonderfully supportive. He was like, "That is amazing. I am so happy for you. Yes, it is okay that you hug him."
Yeah, that's so great. Oh, that's so great. That makes me happy inside. Um, so then what happened after your mission?
After my mission, I came home and I went to school in Utah State. And being the oldest of so many kids, I had no desire to have any more responsibility. Did not want to get married. Did not want to have children. It was not for me. So I was home about 2 years and I'm almost done with school. And I went to the temple regularly. And at this particular time in the temple, I kneeled down in prayer and I'm like, okay, Heavenly Father, I think I'm finally ready. I think I'm finally ready to start dating for marriage. And again, as if you were in the room with me, as clear as day, drop out of school, move to Provo. You will find your husband and you'll marry him by the end of the year. This was January of 2016. And I was like, okay, I was in Logan, Utah. I need to move to Provo and school starts in 3 days. I'm not okay. This is what I'm doing. And so I call my parents and I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And they're so extremely supportive. Like, this is wonderful. I'm so happy for you. I moved to Provo. And that same day, a mission friend, Cooper Cox, also moved to Provo. And he needed a ride. He left his car at work or something. I don't remember. And he knows the only person there that can give him one. He was like, hey, I don't know anyone because he's from Florida. Could you give me a ride? And I said yes. And we started hanging out. And then one day, again, hanging out as friends, it just hit us. Like, this is your person, like lightning. This is undeniable. This is your person. And we were married in May of 2016.
That's awesome.
Something that is just so unbelievably special was that Cooper, he was brand new on the mission when I was at the end of my mission, but we were in the same district for, I think, a transfer. And he actually went to Aaron's baptism.
Oh,
He was there to witness it. And I love that that moment was shared between the three of us. And so I tell everyone that I was in San Diego for Aaron and that Cooper was in San Diego for me.
yeah. I love that. So, what school did you go to? What'd you do?
I went to Aveda cosmetology school. I couldn't get into or transfer to a college within 3 days. All the deadlines had passed. I would have had to wait all the way to September. And I did not want to do something. And I've always loved hair. I've always worked in the beauty industry. I was a manager at Ulta while going to school. And I decided, this is a passion of mine. God's told me to go to Provo. This is what I'm going to do. And I absolutely loved it. And I haven't looked back.
Good. My mom was a hairdresser, so she did that for a long time. So I totally give props to you for that.
Thank you.
So you guys got married, and then how long did you guys stay in the Provo area?
We stayed for about almost 2 years. And then he got a job transfer to Florida. And it was really funny because I told him when we got married that I would never move to Florida. I am from New York. I'm from the snow. I don't do Florida man crazy heat. It's not for me. But it was a good job opportunity that we just couldn't pass up. And I love it here. Never thought I would say that. I thoroughly enjoy the theme parks. I enjoy everything about it. And I just have to switch up my mindset that the summer is our winter. That's just the months that we stay indoors like you would in the snow.
Yeah. And so how do you like your ward out there? Do you have like a good calling? Do you have good friends in your ward?
So we lived in South Florida first, and in my first ward, oh my gosh, there was there, there was three of us. There was four of us, but that were brand new moms and had no family. And it was really special because we just bonded and we just clicked and we just had this unit of support. And I loved it. And I was so sad to leave, but they were also leaving because their husbands were in medical school down there.
Uh-huh.
And then our next ward was also wonderful. It was my husband's hometown ward. And so we were constantly showered with love and support. It was wonderful. And we just recently moved in September to like 45 minutes away to a new area. And we're in this new ward. And you know what? It was not the best experience. Not gonna lie. My first week there, I have I have three children. Two of them are 7 months apart. And so I had a 3-year-old, a just turned 1-year-old, and an 8-month-old. And they wanted me to go to nursery with my babies who weren't even in nursery. And I couldn't even stay in Sacrament in the chapel because they were screaming. So my entire family was out in the hallway because, two babies, two parents.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know my name. They're like, what was your name again? And I'm like, okay, you chose. I'm like, what did President Johnson say? Never let a problem to be solved become more important than a person to be loved. And I was just diagnosed with postpartum, very, very hard postpartum. And I was in tears. I'm like, I can't believe they're asking me to be with more children when my babies aren't even in nursery yet. I'm like, I need the break. I have no family here. I have no help. It was not best. And so I told the bishop that. So he was like, I'm very sorry. And then he was like, well, how does activity day sound? I'm like, love it. That sounds like it's for me. I get to be away from my kids and I get to be with older kids. It's like twice a month. It's an activity down and I get to get out of my house. That is so me. So the first time I go, I'm holding a box of yarn because that was activity, like this huge, massive box of yarn, and it's raining out. And again, I'm new, and this is the stake center, and there's multiple wards that meet here, and I didn't know which side that we meet on. So I just guessed. I went up to the side, and I'm like waiting at the door. The door's locked. I'm like, okay, someone will be here to open it soon. But I didn't want to wait in my car because, there's little girls. I wanted the parents to know that there's an adult here, that I'm not running late. The person who needs to open the door is running late. And this woman comes out of her car and she's talking to me and she's like, hi, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. And she's like, well, where do you in? I'm like, you know what? I'm not sure. I just moved in. And she's like, you don't know what ward you're in? And I'm like, nope. And in my mind, I'm like, I just cried in my car because I have postpartum and I have two very young children close in age and a toddler. I'm like, the name of my ward has just slipped in my mind. I am not sleeping through the night. And I'm like, no, I just moved in. And she's like, okay. And so she pulls out a key and she unlocks the door and she goes, I'm not going to let you in. And I'm like, stunned. Excuse me? I don't know you. I don't know if you're lying or if you're in this ward. I'm not going to let you in. And by this time, people are getting out of their cars and they're coming up, they're, surrounding us. And this man comes up and he's like, what's going on? And of course, doesn't talk to me. He looks at her. And she's like, I don't know who she is. She says that she goes in this ward. And he goes, well, do you go to this ward? I go, yes. And he's like, okay, let her in. And so I am finally, you know, less stunned enough to speak. And I look at her and I go, on every single building of this church says visitors welcome. Even if I'm not a member of this ward, I am welcome. And the man, again, does not look at me and looks at her and says, what did she say? Like he didn't hear me, but why wouldn't he ask me? And she goes, oh, nothing. She's just being rude. And I was like, me? I was truly stunned. I was truly too stunned to speak. And I had realized finally at this point what was happening. It was clear that because I was brown and they were white, they did not want me in their building. They did not trust me in their building. I looked at her and I was like, do you think I'm going to TP the church with my big box of yarn? I go, I'm here for activity days. I told you that. What do you think I'm doing with this yarn? Knitting a trap? And I just couldn't take it anymore. I don't remember exactly what she said because I just kind of, this happened months ago, pushed it back at this point to move forward. And I opened the door and I just pushed past her and I'm like, I'm going to my calling. And she's like, you don't have to be so rude. I couldn't believe it that this was happening to me. I was like, what if she calls the cops? Am I going to be on the news? And this is not in a sarcastic way, like truly fearful. Like, what if she does call the cops? What if something like this is about to happen? I am actually terrified. It was a horrible experience. And so when I get, I do my activity, I get home, and I'm so unbelievably angry that this had happened. Not only this had happened to me, but it happened at church. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, you know what, Cooper? I am going to find out who she is. She has a key, which means she's someone in a top calling in one of these wards. And I know all of the wards. I could look at my tools. Took me 5 seconds, found out exactly who she was. She was a society president in a different ward. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to show up her house right now. I'm going to go to her house right now, knock on her door and be like, told you I was in this ward. I know where you are. And then, of course, I was like, that's crazy. And then I go, fine, I'll just text her. I am just going to ream into her. I am just going to rip her a new one and let her have it. And this was during conference time. So I guess this was in October. And I just listened to this talk about compassion. Oh, I wish I could remember which one it was now. And the Spirit just came over me and just said, compassion. And I can't control how other people will treat me, but I can control how I treat them. And I chose to be a representative of Jesus Christ, and I chose to stand for truth and righteousness. And I am choosing compassion. So I deleted my text and I let it go. And that was that. But I can understand. I remember on the mission, people telling me their struggles with their testimony or them not going to church because of a conflict that they had with someone. And I was like, it's not about them though. It's about you and God and your own testimony, being so naive and young. And in that moment I go, I completely understand why some people stop going to church for this reason. However, I was never going to let anyone stop me from worshiping my God. That was a long tangent. I'm sorry. You asked me, I was not prepared about church, and that just completely came to my mind.
But for some people, that probably is something that happens to them. And what you said at the end, though, is compassion. And that's that's the learning thing right there that can apply to any of us for whatever reason, even if it doesn't have to do with anybody's prejudice or whatever. That applies to all of us for so many things, and I think that's really important to share. So thank you. But you said that you have 3 little ones, and you told me that story on Sunday, but would you share that story?
Yes, I'd love to. When my oldest daughter was 4 months old, I was driving in a car with my husband and my daughter. And again, like lightning, it doesn't happen all the time. The only times that these lightnings have happened are when I have told you. So it's very rare. But like lightning, I knew I had another child, but through adoption. And I had this intense feeling. And I had just given birth 5 months prior, so I still remember what it was like to have life inside of me and to grow a human. That same exact feeling was inside of me, in my body, in my heart. I could feel her spirit. I could feel her inside me. I just had to find her. This insane sense of urgency of I need to find my child. It was so unbelievably strong. And we were newly married with a newborn. I knew nothing about, my dad was adopted, but I didn't know anything about the actual procedure of it. I had no idea how expensive it was. And 2 years of, with adoption, we got a phone call that we were chosen to be parents to this beautiful little girl who was 6 weeks old and was just about to leave the NICU. And I cried. I was so unbelievably happy because when do you become a mother? For me, it is when a pregnancy test has 2 lines on it.
Yeah.
Or when I get a phone call that says I have a daughter. Those are when I become a mother. And so in that moment, she was my daughter and I was her mom. But 3 days later, even though the grandparents had 6 weeks to think about it, and they said no, they did not want to raise her, they changed their mind. But because the birth parents had already picked us and we already signed legal paperwork, we had to go to court. And we went to court for 9 months. It was unbelievably painful to, again, in my heart, that's my daughter, to have limited visitation, to be fighting for her, and then not only to be fighting for her, but to be put on the stand and questioned and cross-examined and yelled at and told that it is impossible for me to love someone who doesn't share my DNA as much as someone who does. They could not fathom it. They could not believe it. Constantly questioning me. And I was like, I don't know how else to explain it to you. It's the same. When the pregnancy tests are the exact same. I know you can't, it's hard to understand, but I know that it was very hard. And then we found out that the judge decided to place her with her grandparents, and it was very devastating. Because, like I said, I was her mom. And I don't ever want to compare my loss to parents of grief. But in a sense, I did lose a child, not in that way, not through bereavement, but
You did. You lost a child.
It was very painful. And I was so mad at God because I was reading my scriptures every day. I was praying. I was like, every single day was so unbelievably painful. We would walk by her empty room every night and stare at it and think, one day she will be in this room. fine. Yes, it was painful. And I was like, there is no way that God would tell me that I have a child, put me through this, make us go into serious debt because we spent $65,000, including the additional legal fees for this adoption, which we don't get a refund on. For this, which we can't afford. That's how much money my husband makes in a year. I'm like, there's no way God would have me do all of these things for it not to work out. I was 1,000% convinced that it was going to work out. I was like, this is just my child that we have to go to court. And I was so angry. And for the first time in my life, I was really angry with God, and I didn't know what to do because I guess it's like when you get angry at someone you love, like I'm mad, but I still love you, but I'm really hurt. And I knelt down in prayer and I was like, Father, I am really mad. This was cruel and it was painful. How dare you say I have a child? Make me search for 2 years with this pain of feeling that I have a child, but they're not here with me for 2 years, and then to be so close and then to take it away. And I don't recommend ever speaking to God like this. This was a very weak and vulnerable moment. I was like, you are giving me a child. You are giving me a child, whether it's through biology or it's through adoption. You are giving me a child this year. I have been through too much. You are giving me a child. And in the stillness that calmed my voice, it said, just wait. Just wait till April, May. And I said, okay. This was, again, January of 2020. And I said, okay, April, May. And I, in my prayer, I never intended to let it shake my testimony. I was just really in my feelings. So time goes on. End of April, beginning of May, I find out I'm pregnant, which is wonderful news. And the pandemic had just hit as well. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, adoption's not happening. Like the pandemic's hitting. It's just, I'm pregnant. Like I don't know what it is. No one's going to pick us. No one will ever choose us now. And 2 weeks after I found out I was pregnant, we get a phone call on Sunday. We get a phone call that a birth family chose us. And we have a little girl. And to come to the hospital in 4 hours and pick her up. And what was so amazing, 4 hours to meet her and we could pick her up the next day. Thankfully, we had all of this stuff for baby girl M, just for her privacy. I'm going to call her M. For M, all the stuff that we had for her. And we had just packed it away. I finally got the courage and emotional strength to pack away her stuff. And like a week before, and we pull it all out. We have the car seat. I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, because again, we don't have family down here. We don't have a babysitter. I'm like, Mom, and it's COVID. We can't bring our daughter in the hospital. I'm like, I need you. And she's in New York. I need you to come here now. I need you here now. I need you to get here. And so my mom and my sister immediately get in the car in New York and just book it to Florida. And we go to the hospital to meet her. And because of, very, very beginning of the pandemic, we're in the hospital with the NICU. The officer, security, who lets you in, lets us both go up there. And then the NICU nurses are like, only one's allowed in. We're like, oh, I'm so sorry. We did not know that. So, the officer said that we can come up, both of us. The security was adopted. And so we didn't know this at the time. He bent the rules to let both of us go up and meet our daughter instead of just one of us. And it was so special and so magical to see my baby girl for the first time. And they did the car seat test. The NICU nurses, they have visiting hours because it was a shared NICU. They shouldn't have their own room. And so, there's visiting hours for that. And they let me stay. Well, they let us, so selfish. They let us stay as long as we wanted, which was so amazing. I stayed until 10:30. And then we went home. And when we went to the hospital to go pick her up, my mom and sister got there at the exact same time as we did to grab our oldest daughter for us, which was perfect timing. But what is really special is that she's what's called a stork drop. And I know some people don't like that term. I'm not sure what a more appropriate term is. I find that appropriate. I know some adoptees find it appropriate. It's with adoptive language, it's hard because everyone kind of has their own preferences. But anyways, she's what's called a stork drop, where she's born and then the birth parents decide to place for adoption. And with our agency, first priority stork drops are for families who've experienced a failed adoption.
Oh, yeah.
And well, not that, the birth parents still get to choose. So it's just that our profile book gets shown first. So they could look at our book and be like, nah, not them. And they would go to the other families who haven't experienced a disrupted placement like that.
Yeah.
And so it was us and I think 2 or 3 other families. And they chose us, which is wonderful. But if we didn't experience, and I say failed for this one because it was a failed, not disrupted.
Yeah.
If we didn't experience this failed adoption, we never would have been presented first for our daughter, Anastasia.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest fan of everything happens for a reason, because when you're in the thick of it and someone says that, you're like, what is the reason?
Yeah.
What is the reason that I am in excruciating pain that a mother is separated from their child? Like, what is the reason? I don't like it. However, in this very specific case, which I would say is the exception, there was a reason. And I don't choose to go through that ever again.
Oh, no.
But if I knew in hindsight to get to your daughter, you have to go through this. Of course I would do it 100 times.
Yeah. And then you had a baby too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot. It was just a few weeks long. And then I had a baby 8 months later.
During the pandemic.
During the pandemic. Yeah, we had 2 babies during the pandemic. With no help. We saw no one. It was exhausting.
And so how old are they now?
They are, Anastasia will be 2 in May, and River just turned 1 in December.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
Yeah.
But they'll be in different grades at school, even though they're
the same, born the same year and the same age, which I love because I love that it sets, like their own life, their own personality. Because even with twins, they say, don't dress them the same. It's important that they develop their own likes and their own personality, that their identity isn't that they're a twin.
Yeah. That's cool. So that's awesome. What does it mean to you to know that you belong to the tribe of Israel?
It means everything to me. I have definitely built an identity around it. As we talked about earlier, how I was going through identity complex, and I feel that when you identify with God, that is your identity, that you're a child of God, that is who you are first before anything else. Everything else falls into place or seems to be smaller and more manageable because you're so loved. In these experiences that I have shared, it is so undeniable how much I am loved. And while serving a mission, oh my goodness, that's probably one of my most cherished experiences, is just witnessing how much God loves his children and the things that he will do to bring them happiness. True happiness, which, as we know, is through spiritual happiness, not through materials and worldly possessions. But the lengths that he will go to make his children happy is absolutely amazing to witness. I know that God loves me so much more than I can ever comprehend. And I know that he loves everyone on this earth. I also know that when times get really, really dark and unknown and scary, that he has not left our side. I had my own Joseph Smith, where is thy pavilion? Where are you hiding? Moment. I'm like, where are you at? You said you'd be by me. But he does not leave our side. I know for me, I think I was just so engulfed in my feeling of hurt that I couldn't feel anything else. And I think we just have to remember that and to put one foot in front of the other and trust in God's plan and do the basic primary stuff. Pray, read our scriptures, and serve. Those three things are, to me, they're the foundation of my testimony. Those three things will get me through the rest of my life. Yeah. We'll make sure I stay on that straight and narrow.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Sasha, for your testimony and for being so open and vulnerable. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your testimony of how much the Savior loves each of us. Today I have something kind of silly to talk about. I often do, right? Yesterday, when we were having dinner together as a family, I pulled out a notepad and we wrote down meal ideas for this week. It's the 4th week in a row I have actually been prepared to do that. And it has been making my life so much better. Now you might say, well, duh, Andrea. And I might say, I know planning ahead of time makes the things easier. I know that, but I've just never made the effort to do this. So 4 weeks in a row, everybody should pat me on the back or pat me on the head and, wish me good luck to keep doing this. But, the principle in itself is something that I just think is so valuable, like regardless of how you apply the principle, preparation is going to make the thing easier. So, if you've been putting something off that you know you should be preparing for a little bit here, a little bit there, maybe it's time. Maybe you just needed to hear that from someone this week. And maybe I'm the one that needed to tell you. You can laugh with me. You can, like I said, pat me on the head and say, good job, Andrea. But it is an important principle, and there are so many ways to apply it. So I hope that was encouraging for somebody out there, and I hope you're having a super wonderful, awesome day. Tribe of Testimonies is not affiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The music is a traditional hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, arranged and performed by Kyle Forsyth. If you know someone who might be interested in being a guest, please reach out to me at tribeoftestimonies@gmail.com.